There is a praying mantis in this video that should not be where it is. It is walking with full coordination toward a body of water. Mantises do not do this. They avoid water. They cannot fly wet. They never drink. And yet, here it is. The praying mantis is one of the most aggressive predators in the insect world. It eats other insects. It eats spiders. It has been documented eating hummingbirds. It hunts by sight, with one of the most precise stereoscopic vision systems in the entire animal kingdom. It is not a victim, and yet this individual is walking toward water. It should not be approaching, on a route it would never choose, with a destination its species has no native concept of. Something is driving it. That something is not in its head. By the end of this video, you will understand how a worm hiding in the wrong part of its host's body can take total control of that host's brain without ever touching it. Let's start with what a mantis normally does. Serious, calm. To understand why a praying mantis approaching water is wrong, you have to know what a praying mantis is. It is a visual hunter with one of the most precise vision systems on Earth for its size. 2 large compound eyes with a stereoscopic overlap, true depth perception, that lets it judge the distance to a prey item with an accuracy of millimeters. It can turn its head independently of its body, scanning, calculating. Many insects can do many things. Almost none of them see like this. Calm. It hunts by striking. Its forelegs, the famous folded praying arms, are spring-loaded weapons that unfold in under 50 milliseconds and grip with such force that the mantis can hold prey larger than itself. It eats other insects. It eats spiders. It eats small reptiles. In documented cases, it has eaten hummingbirds at backyard feeders. It is one of the only insects on Earth that can routinely take prey larger than itself, and it does so without hesitation. Emphasis. This is not a delicate or vulnerable species. This is an apex predator in its size class. Calm. And like most apex predators, the mantis lives by a strict set of behavioral rules that keep it alive long enough to hunt. One of those rules is simple: slow, heavy. It does not enter water. Calm. Mantises do not drink water. They get all their fluid from the prey they eat. They cannot fly when their wings are wet, and a wet mantis becomes immediately vulnerable to the predators it would normally evade. They are strongly geotactic, meaning they instinctively orient with respect to gravity and avoid edges that look like they might lead downward or off a surface. Bodies of water are categorically negative to them. Calm. A healthy mantis approaches a pond about as often as a hawk takes a swim, which is to say, almost never. In a lifetime of normal behavior, a mantis may never come within a body length of any body of water large enough to drown in. Avoidance is wired in at every level: vision, geotaxis, the way the legs respond to humidity gradients in the air near the ground. Serious. And yet, with a frequency that field biologists started noticing in the late 20th century, mantises were turning up at the edges of ponds, streams, and shallow pools, walking with deliberate intent, stepping in, often dying. Calm. Sometimes, and this is the part that confused early observers, not dying. Calm. For decades, this behavior was assumed to be some kind of confusion. A sick mantis, a dehydration emergency, a neurological disease, some kind of one-off malfunction. The observations did not get much further than that, partly because they were treated as anecdote rather than pattern, and partly because field biology in this register was sparse before the late 90s. Emphasis. But the pattern persisted, across species, across continents. Calm. North American mantises, European mantises, Asian species, Australian observations. The same impossible behavior, apex insect predators walking voluntarily into water, kept showing up in the literature. Calm. Mantises were not supposed to be in water. Mantises were ending up in water anyway. Something was driving them. Quiet, dark. The driver was not visible from the outside. Calm. What investigators eventually did, in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, particularly the French parasitologist Frédéric Thomas and his colleagues at the University of Montpellier, was the obvious next step. They caught water-seeking mantises and crickets and grasshoppers before they reached water. They brought them back to the lab. They dissected them. And inside almost every one of them they found something extraordinary. Something that, when laid out alongside the host on the tray, was several times longer than the insect it had been living inside. Slow, heavy, a worm, tension, dark. But the worm is not where you might expect. It is not in the mantis's head. It is not in the brain. It is not anywhere near the nervous system. Pause. And what it is doing, from the wrong place entirely, has rewritten everything we thought we knew about how parasites control their hosts. Serious, calm. The worm inside that mantis is a hairworm. Phylum Nematomorpha. An ancient group of parasites, fossil evidence places them on Earth for at least 300 million years. Which means they have been doing this since before there were mammals, before there were flowering plants, before there were dinosaurs. Nematomorpha is a sister phylum to Nematoda, the true nematodes, the most numerous animals on Earth, and the split between the two groups happened so long ago that we cannot find a common ancestor in the fossil record. About 350 species of hairworm are known to science today. Many more are suspected to exist, undescribed. And the most extraordinary thing about a hairworm, before you even consider what it does, is its size relative to its host. The adult worm inside a mature mantis can be 30 to 100 centimeters long. Coiled, it filled almost the entire body cavity of its host. Uncoiled, it would not have fit even once. The worm grew there. The mantis kept living, kept hunting, kept being a mantis through every centimeter of that growth. How does the worm get inside in the first place? The cycle starts in water. Adult hairworms live in ponds, streams, and pools. They mate, sometimes in groups, tangling together in the knots that gave the phylum its old name, the Gordian worms, after the Gordian knot of Greek myth. The females then lay millions of eggs. In some species, a single individual produces hundreds of millions of eggs in a season. Almost all of those eggs will die. A small fraction will hatch into microscopic larvae. The larvae are too small to survive on their own for long. They need a host immediately. Their first host is usually a small aquatic creature, a copod, the larva of a midge, the larva of a mosquito. The hairworm larva enters one of these, forms a cyst, and goes dormant. It does not grow. It does not feed. It waits. Now the worm needs to get out of the water. Because its final host, the one in which it will grow to full size, is terrestrial. It does this by hitching a ride. When that aquatic intermediate host metamorphoses and leaves the water as an adult flying insect, a mosquito, a midge, a mayfly, it carries the dormant hairworm larva with it onto land. The intermediate host has no idea it is a carrier. It just lives its short adult life, lays its own eggs, and dies somewhere on land or close to it. Then a predator, a mantis, a cricket, a grasshopper, eats that infected insect. In the predator's digestive system, the hairworm larva detects new conditions, different pH, different chemistry, the warmth and pressure of a terrestrial gut. It breaks out of its cyst and migrates through the gut wall into the body cavity. The mantis's immune system tries briefly to respond to the migration. The worm is too well evolved for the response to succeed. Within hours, the larva is in the open space of the body cavity between organs. There, it begins to grow. Over the next several weeks to months, the worm grows from microscopic to enormous. It does not enter the host's organs. It does not invade the nervous system. It does not touch the brain. It simply expands in the space available, eating the host's internal reserves, fat body, hemolymph proteins, eventually parts of the gut tissue, coiling tighter and tighter into a knot. What the worm does not do throughout this growth is kill its host. A dead mantis is useless to it. The worm needs a living, functional mantis to carry it for the next stage of its life cycle. So the consumption is calibrated, slow, gradual, careful. The mantis loses condition. Its reserves decline, but it lives. The mantis continues to hunt, continues to behave normally, continues to be a mantis while a worm 3 times its own length grows quietly inside it. Now we arrive at the part that makes this story different from anything we have looked at in this series so far. In the earlier videos, every parasite we examined achieved precise control of its host's behavior by being in the right place. Cymothoa replaced the fish's tongue, direct presence in the mouth. Saculina threaded its root system through the crab's nervous tissue, direct presence in the nervous system. Rabies targeted specific regions of the brain, direct presence in the brain itself. The hairworm is in the wrong place. The mantis's brain is structurally fine. The worm is centimeters away. There is no neural invasion. There is no nervous system damage. And yet the mantis is going to walk into water and die, or come very close to it. How? The answer is molecular mimicry. The worm has evolved to secrete proteins that look like the mantis's own signaling molecules, the chemical language the mantis's body uses to communicate with itself. These secreted molecules enter the mantis's hemolymph, the open circulatory fluid that insects have instead of a closed blood system. Hemolymph reaches every part of the insect's body, including the head, including the area around the brain. The insect blood-brain barrier is less restrictive than the mammalian one. Many molecules cross. Once in the brain, these worm-derived mimic molecules find receptors that normally bind the mantis's own signals. They dock, they activate or block neural circuits, but not randomly, with precision. In 2005, a French research team led by David Byron published a detailed proteomic analysis of the brains of hairworm-infected hosts. What they found was startling. Certain proteins in the brains of infected hosts were not of the host's own making. They had been produced by the worm, including members of the WNT signaling family, molecules that normally help regulate neural development and behavior in the insect brain. The worm was sending its own messages directly into the host's neural machinery. The mantis brain was receiving these messages and treating them as its own. The brain was still working normally. It was just being told different things. 3 specific behaviors are affected. The first is geotaxis, the mantis's normal orientation with respect to gravity, which usually keeps it climbing upward and away from edges. In an infected mantis, this is partially inverted. Downward movement toward lower elevations, toward the edges of surfaces, becomes acceptable. The second is phototaxis, light response. In a healthy mantis, light is processed for navigation and prey detection. In an infected mantis, the system shifts. The mantis becomes positively attracted to a very specific kind of light, polarized light reflected from water surfaces. Water uniquely reflects light in a polarized pattern. This is a physical fact of optics, not a coincidence the worm has exploited, but a signal it has learned to make attractive. The infected mantis's brain has been retuned to find this specific signal positively rewarding, like a beacon. Other shiny surfaces, wet leaves, dew on grass, and smooth metal do not produce the same polarization signature. The mantis is not just attracted to shine, it is specifically attracted to water. The third is circadian, the timing of when the mantis is active. Healthy mantises are typically active during the day, when they can hunt visually. Infected mantises become more active at night, increasing the chances of reaching water unobserved by predators along the way. 3 behaviors, 3 knobs, each one turned in a direction that makes the mantis walk toward water at the right time, on the right path, with the right destination. All of it done from the abdomen, none of it involving any physical contact with the brain. The worm has not invaded the mantis's mind. It has just learned to speak its language. Tension. Dark. But control is not the end of the story. Pause. Because the worm has somewhere it needs to go. And the mantis somehow, sometimes, does not always die there. Serious. Calm. The mantis arrives at the edge. It has walked, by some studies, anywhere from a few meters to dozens of meters to reach this water. The journey can take hours. It has navigated obstacles. It has avoided larger predators. It has not stumbled. The mantis's motor control is intact. Its sensory systems are intact. The only thing that has changed is where its priorities are pointing. It pauses, then steps in, calm. What happens next is the part that, for centuries, made human observers refuse to believe what they were seeing. Slow. Heavy. The worm. Calm. The full length of the worm, coiled inside the mantis until this moment, slowly unspools into the water. It can take several minutes, sometimes more than 10. The worm reaches its full 30, 50, 80 centimeters of length. It begins to swim, slow undulations through the water. Free, quiet, dark. In the water, it will find a mate, lay its eggs. The cycle will start again. Calm. Back at the surface, the mantis is sometimes dead, drowned during the long process of emergence. The body floats, hollowed out, the worm gone. But sometimes, and this is the detail most retellings of this story leave out, the mantis is not dead. Some mantises, after their worm has emerged, climb back out of the water. They reach the bank. They drag themselves onto dry ground. They sit, soaked and gutted and missing most of their internal reserves, while their cuticle slowly dries. Many of them do not survive long after this. Compromised immune systems, drained body cavities, and the trauma of emergence usually kill them within hours or days. They die quietly, somewhere off the path, never having understood what happened to them. But some live longer. In documented cases, post-emergence mantises have been observed feeding again, hunting, behaving briefly like the mantises they were before being driven to water. Their behavior has returned to normal because the worm is gone. The molecules it was secreting are gone. The retuning of their neural circuits is fading. They are themselves again, for whatever days they have left. This survival nuance is rarely included in pop science accounts of hairworm. The reason it is missed is partly because it is uncomfortable for our usual frame. A killed by mind control story is cleaner than a temporarily piloted, then released story. But the survival is real. It has been documented across multiple field studies, going back to the early Thomas and Byron group observations in the early 2000s, and it tells us something important about the mechanism. The worm did not break the mantis. The worm sent its signals for a few months. When the worm leaves, the signals stop, and the mantis returns to default function. This was not invasion. This was occupation. And occupations, unlike invasions, can end with the occupied territory still functional. What we have learned from the survival cases and from the proteomic studies that decoded the molecular mechanism is that behavioral parasitism does not have to be destructive. It can be remote, surgical, and reversible. The brain of an animal can be hijacked without being damaged and returned to its owner once the hijack is no longer needed. The implications stretch beyond hairworms. Many other parasites, including some that infect mammals, including possibly some that infect humans, may operate by similar chemical principles, sending signals from somewhere else, asking the brain different questions, getting different answers. We have spent most of the history of biology assuming that to control behavior, you must access the brain. The hairworm shows that this assumption was wrong, or at least very incomplete. Biology was not ready to think this way for most of its history. We assumed behavioral control required neural invasion. The hairworm has been quietly doing it the other way for 300 million years, long before there were vertebrates with the kind of brains we usually think about, long before there was any creature that could be called intelligent by modern standards. Whatever the hairworm is doing, it is older than the puzzle of mind itself. Quiet, dark, and this is why hairworm is the strangest member of this series so far, not because of what it does, but because of where it does it from. We met Cymothoa, the surgeon without a mind. It controlled by being in the right place, the mouth. We met Saccholina, the mother without a mind. It controlled by being in the right place, the nervous tissue. We met Rabies, the puppeteer without a mind. It controlled by being in the right place, the brain regions that govern behavior. Slow, heavy. The hairworm is the first that did it from the wrong place. Serious. The drowner without a mind. The first parasite in the series whose presence is not where its power is. The mantis's brain is not where the parasite lives. The mantis's brain is where the parasite sends its messages through chemistry alone, across the host's own circulatory system, in a language the brain was already trained to listen to. Emphasis. 300 million years of practice. The same trick, the same molecular vocabulary, the same impossible elegance. Quiet. Dark. You do not need to be inside the brain to control the brain. Pause. You just need to know what to whisper. Calm. Soft. If you're the kind of person who likes peeking behind the curtain of our eerie, beautiful world, the kind who wants to know what biology has been doing while no one was watching, this channel exists for you. The deep dives keep coming. The series keeps finding more roles. We have explored a surgeon, a mother, a puppeteer, and now a drowner, each without a mind. There is at least one more coming that you have probably heard of. This one does not bother sending signals from somewhere else. Tension. In the next video, we move from a worm that controls without entering to a fungus that does the opposite. It enters everything. It grows from inside. It does not kill its hosts. Slow. Low. It wears them. Pause. Dark. You will want to see this one.